Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, people just don't see your worth? Maybe you've knocked on every door, given your best pitch, smiled through every rejection, and still, nobody buys what you're selling. Not your product, not your ideas, not even your effort. You start to wonder, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe success is for other people, not someone like me. But what if the difference between failure and greatness isn't talent? It's a set of principles so simple, most people overlook them. This is the story of a poor boy who was given 10 ancient scrolls, and those scrolls turned him into the greatest salesman the world had ever known. Stay with me until the end. Long ago, in a land of desert winds and golden sand, there lived a young boy named Rami. Rami was a camel boy, the lowest position in a trading caravan. Every day he fed the camels, cleaned their stalls, and carried supplies under the burning sun. His hands were cracked, his clothes were torn, his meals were whatever scraps the older traders didn't want. But Rami had a fire inside him. He didn't want to tend camels for the rest of his life. He watched the merchants in the caravan, men who wore fine robes, who negotiated with confidence, who commanded respect wherever they went. And he thought, one day, that will be me. But wanting and doing are two different things. When Rami finally convinced his master to let him try selling, he failed completely. He walked through the markets of Damascus for an entire week, carrying beautiful silk robes, and sold nothing, not a single piece. People looked through him as if he were invisible. Shop owners waved him away. Customers laughed at his clumsy words. One evening, he returned to camp, exhausted and humiliated. His only friend, an older camel driver, shook his head sadly. Rami, selling is not for boys like us. We weren't born for it. Accept your place. But Rami couldn't accept it, because deep down, he believed he was meant for more, even though he had zero proof. The truth that tortured him was this. He wasn't afraid of hard work. He worked harder than anyone. But hard work without direction is like walking in the desert without a compass. You move, but you go nowhere. And every night, lying on his thin mat, staring at the stars, one question echoed in his mind. What am I missing? Why can't I succeed? He didn't know it yet, but the answer was about to find him. One bitter winter night, the caravan was caught in a terrible sandstorm. The traders scrambled for shelter. Rami, separated from the group, stumbled through the blinding dust until he found a small cave. Inside, huddled by a dying fire, was an old man, frail, shivering, barely alive. Rami had almost nothing, but he took off his own cloak, the only warm thing he owned, and wrapped it around the stranger. He shared his last piece of bread. He fed the fire with whatever dry wood he could find. He didn't know who this man was. He simply couldn't walk past someone who was suffering. When morning came and the storm had passed, the old man opened his eyes. He looked at Rami with a gaze that seemed to see straight into his soul. You gave me your cloak when you had nothing else, the old man said quietly. That tells me everything I need to know about you. Rami learned that this was no ordinary traveler. The old man was Pathros, the wealthiest trader in the entire region, a man whose caravan stretched across continents, a man who had started just like Rami, with nothing. I have been searching, Pathros said, for someone worthy of receiving what was given to me when I was young, someone with a generous heart and a hungry spirit. I believe that someone is you. From beneath his robe, Pathros pulled out a leather case, worn and ancient. Inside this case are 10 scrolls. Each scroll contains one principle, one habit, that if practiced every single day on will transform you from what you are into what you are meant to be. He placed the case in Rami's trembling hands. But hear me carefully. These scrolls are worthless if you only read them. You must live them. Each scroll must be read 3 times a day, morning, midday, and night, for 30 days before you move to the next one. No skipping. 10 scrolls, 10 months. And at the end, you will not recognize the man you've become. Rami looked at the case. then at Pathros. "Why me? I'm just a camel boy." Pathros smiled. "So was I." That night, alone in the cave, Rami unrolled the first scroll. The words were simple, but their power was immense. The first scroll taught him this: "I will form good habits and become their slave." Pathros had explained it with a metaphor that Rami never forgot. "Imagine your life is a field," the old man had said. "Right now it is overgrown with weeds, the weeds of failure, doubt, and laziness. You cannot simply pull them out. They will grow back. But if you plant new seeds, seeds of discipline, repeated every single day, eventually, the good crops will choke out the weeds. Your habits," Pathros continued, "are more powerful than your wishes. A man who wishes to succeed but has the habits of a failure will always fail. But a man who builds the habits of success, even if he starts with nothing, will inevitably rise." Rami understood. It wasn't about motivation. It wasn't about luck. It was about what he did repeatedly, day after day, when nobody was watching. The second scroll surprised him, and it said, "I will greet this day with love in my heart." Rami had expected strategies, clever techniques, persuasion tricks. Instead, the scroll taught that the foundation of all selling, all influence, all success is love. Not romantic love, but genuine care for the person standing in front of you. When you approach a customer with love, you don't manipulate, you serve, you don't push, you understand, and people can feel the difference instantly. The third scroll became Rami's anchor. "I will persist until I succeed." It taught him to see failure differently. Every rejection was not a wall, it was a step. The scroll said that the prizes of life are at the end of each journey, not near the beginning, and that he would never know how close he was to success if he stopped too soon. Pathros had used one final image that burned itself into Rami's memory. "Think of an olive tree," the old man said. "An olive tree is beaten by the wind, baked by the sun, and stripped of its fruit year after year. Yet it stands for hundreds of years. Why? Because its roots go deep. These scrolls are your roots. If you plant them deep enough, no storm of rejection, no drought of failure, no winter of doubt can ever destroy you." Rami closed the first scroll, and the next morning, for the first time in his life, he woke up with a plan. Rami followed the system, exactly as Pathros instructed. Every morning before sunrise, he read the current scroll. At midday, he read it again. Every night, he read it once more. The first month was brutal. He walked into markets with the first scroll's words echoing in his mind. "I will form good habits." But customers still rejected him. His voice still trembled. His confidence was fragile. But something was different. He didn't quit. Before the scrolls, 3 rejections would send him home defeated. Now, after 10 rejections, he read the scroll again and went back out. Slowly, almost invisibly, something began to shift. By the 3rd month, Rami noticed changes. He was approaching people differently. Instead of nervously pushing his goods, he listened. He asked about their families, their needs, their problems. He greeted every person with genuine warmth, the second scroll's teaching alive in his actions. And then people responded. Not because his products were better, because he was different. He cared. They could feel it. His first real sale came on an ordinary Tuesday. A fabric merchant who had rejected him twice before suddenly said, "There's something about you, young man. You're not like the other traders. I'll take 20 pieces." Rami almost wept. By the 6th month, word had spread. Rami wasn't just selling, he was building relationships. Customers asked for him by name. They trusted his recommendations. They referred their friends. His income had grown tenfold. He moved from the camel stalls to his own small tent. He ate real meals. He bought proper clothes. But more important than the money was who he had become. The fearful boy who stuttered through sales pitches was gone. In his place stood a young man who spoke with conviction, listened with compassion, and persisted through every obstacle. The 10th and final scroll contained the most powerful principle of all: I will pray for guidance. It taught Rami that true success is not about conquering others, it is about becoming the best version of yourself. That humility and gratitude are not weaknesses, but the foundations upon which lasting greatness is built. On the morning he finished the last scroll, Rami sat quietly and realized something extraordinary. He was no longer the same person, not because of magic, not because of luck, but because for 10 months, he had shown up every single day and practiced principles that most people know, but almost nobody follows through on. Rami traveled back to find Pathros. The old man was waiting, as if he had known Rami would come. "You look different," Pathros said. "I am different. Tell me what you learned." Rami thought carefully. "I learned that success is not a single great moment. It's the accumulation of thousands of small, disciplined days. I learned that love opens more doors than cleverness, and I learned that the person who persists, not the person who is talented, is the one who wins." Pathros nodded, his eyes glistening. "Then you are ready. Go and become what you were born to be, my friend." Rami's story is not just about selling goods in an ancient market. It's about you, right now, and wherever you are. Here's what most people miss. You need a better product, a better resume, or a better starting position. You need better daily habits. The difference between the person who achieves their dreams and the person who keeps dreaming is not intelligence. It's not luck. It's not connections. It's this: the winner showed up and did the work every single day, even when it was boring, even when results were invisible, even when everyone around them said it was pointless. So here are 3 principles from those ancient scrolls that you can start applying today. First, choose one positive habit and commit to it for 30 days. Not 5 habits, not 10, just 1. Read 1 page of a useful book every morning and practice your craft for 30 minutes before the world wakes up. Speak to 1 new person every day. Small, yes, but so is a seed, and seeds become forests. Second, greet every person you meet tomorrow with genuine warmth, not to get something from them, not as a tactic, but because every person you encounter is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Kindness is not weakness. It is the most powerful sales tool, leadership tool, and life tool ever created. Third, when you face rejection, and you will, do not stop. Read the story again if you need to. Remind yourself that the person who quits will never know how close they were to their breakthrough. Rami started as a camel boy, with cracked hands and torn clothes. He had no education, no connections, no advantages, but he had 10 principles, and the discipline to practice them every day. You don't need 10 scrolls. You already know what to do. The question is, will you do it? If this story reminded you that your daily habits have the power to change your destiny, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Because sometimes, the right story, at the right time, can change a life. Until next time, stay patient, stay persistent, and never stop becoming.